Always consult your use and care guide and owner's manual for additional information.
The elbow adapter included has a rubber washer integrated into it, which seals it against the threaded solenoid connection. It should only be necessary to firmly finger tighten the adapter, but in the case where water may still leak, you may give it another partial turn with a tool. Do not over tighten for risk of damaging the washer. We're ready to roll the appliance into the niche now, but before we do that, we want to ensure that we don't have any water leaks. We have connected the water line and we have plugged the unit in the niche. Our water shutoff valve is in a remote location. It's not located behind the appliance. It's here underneath the sink, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on now. And then verify at the appliance that we have no water running out onto the floor. So we're just going to check for any water drips around our connection, and our cloth is dry, so we're ready to install the appliance. Prior to moving the unit in place, you want to ensure that the front leveling legs are in their upmost position or transport position. You don't want them dragging on the floor as we push the unit into place. Once it's in place, we will then make the adjustments necessary to level the unit off. The units come with 4 rollers on the base, which makes it easy to roll into the niche. We also have a floor protection down, which is always a good idea in a customer's home, just in case something gets caught under the rollers. I like to use the tape that holds the accessories on the back to tape up my water line, which is now connected, and my electrical cord, which is plugged in. This prevents any chance of pinching or rolling over top of the cable when we're pushing the unit into the niche. We're now ready to install the appliance in the niche. We're going to push it back, taking care, because we've made the adjustments to our side profile trims that we're going to be exactly the same width as the niche. We want to make sure that we don't do any damage to the side gables or to the cabinetry as we push it in. So we'll go in carefully in hopes that the floor is also level enough that we're not going to be off kilter or hit anything. Once we're in the niche, we'll then make our adjustments to the panel alignment, left and right, or in the X direction, and then we'll level the appliance up into place as well. So we've gone about as far as we can go. When the appliance comes from the factory, it is biased to the back already, in which case if we want to push it all the way back into the niche, we will have to do some leveling on the rear rollers in order to bring the top forward so that we can push it the rest of the way into the niche. Since the unit comes biased to the back, one of the things we want to do is adjust up the back rollers to get the unit as level as possible so that we can start tweaking the panels and so that everything is lined up. And so you do that by means of a socket and ratchet, 13mm extension or socket on the end of the extension, and that engages the back rollers. And as we do this, we should see the top of the appliance start to come forward. And so we want to do a little bit at a time on each side. I would caution against using power drivers to do this, just because you don't have the same level of control. Okay, let's see where we're at. And so at the same time now, I'll take the opportunity to drop our front leveling legs down in contact with the floor. And then this will be where we can do all of our final leveling between the back rollers and the front leveling legs. We should be able to push it back further in the niche now, which we have. I've pushed the unit fully into the niche, and I've leveled the unit now using our 13mm socket for the rear wheels, the rear casters, and a 17mm wrench for the front leveling legs, getting it up to the top so I have a nice gap above the top panel door. I've also used my 4mm Allen key to suck the overlay panel completely against the appliance door. And you can see I haven't done it to the drawer yet, and that's why the drawer is sticking out further. So we'll go into detail about how to bring the panel all the way in, so that will be flush, the two panels will be flush with each other and the niche itself. I want to show here how we can make the adjustment to line up the panels with each other. I've already done the upper panel to allow me to set the depth of the appliance in the niche. I haven't done the lower panel or the drawer panel yet. As you can see, we now have a gap existing there that we don't have here. And the way we make that adjustment to bring the panel in, or make that adjustment in the Z or Z direction, is through the inside of the door. So those hanger bolts and set screws that we installed at the beginning in preparation for the panel to be mounted on there can now be accessed with that Allen key to the Allen head in behind the gasket. And so you can just pull the gasket back and get the Allen key in there. If you find it easier, you can also even pull the gasket out of its channel just carefully to gain access to these adjustment areas. So down on the bottom is going to be our adjustment bolt, and up at the top is going to be our set screw. But because we've brought the panel all the way into the face of the appliance door, we will only really concern ourselves with the hanger bolt, and we'll bring the panel all the way in against the appliance door. Since we've already done the upper door, we're now going to, and we just push the gasket back into the channel, make sure it engages, and we're going to do the same thing to the drawer. I've made sure that my panels are lined up with each other in the X direction. I'm happy with the Y elevation of them, and now we're going to make sure that they're flush together on the face. So I'm going to bring this panel in tight to the appliance or the drawer panel, and I do that through the back of the panel. I have two holes here. This one, the first one I'm going to do is the set screw, and I want to go against the arrow and back it out of the way. So I don't want to pull the panel in against the set screw anymore. I'm going to pull the panel in right against this appliance door. So I back off that set screw, and then we have two arrows on the adjustment bolt or the hanger bolt, and one is a strong arrow and one is a weak arrow, and the strong arrow is the direction we want. That means we're going to be pulling the panel in closer. You should be able to see it come in nice and tight against the appliance door, and we'll do the same thing down at the bottom now. And notice that the set screw and the hanger bolt are in opposite positions when you move down to the bottom. So I'm going to back the set screw out of the way. And we're going to turn in the strong direction to pull the bottom of the panel in tight against the appliance. And maybe we'll have to back that set screw off just a little bit more. Let's see if we can get it in. Oh, it's as tight as we're getting. And we'll close it and see our alignment. Looks nice. We're happy with our panel alignment. Everything is lined up nicely. We're all flush. Now comes the time to actually fix the appliance in the niche. Inevitably, once you open the door, it adds a little weight to the front of the appliance, which kind of may pull it forward a little bit. So what I like to do is when I put my first screw in, I put it in at the top, and maybe give a little bit of weight back to the appliance to push it back a little bit. If we go too far back, it's okay. We can always adjust the panel out a little bit to make it flush again. We can't adjust the panel in any further if we put the screw in with the appliance sitting too far forward. So just applying a little bit of pressure back on the appliance. So make sure you're also using screws that aren't too long, that they're going to go through the whole gable. In this case, the installation kit does not include the screws that you will use to fix down the profile trim. This is up to you based on the design or how deep you can go with a screw. Make sure though that they are flat headed, because when we put the covers over top, we don't want any interference with the screw heads. So I'll continue now and finish installing all of the screws. I'll go down the... Actually, I'm going to check to make sure that we're still looking okay, which we are. So I'll continue down the side. For the screws on the hinge side, we're going to put an extension on to make it easier to get all the way through. And you'll have to kind of hold the door forward a bit to gain access to these holes. Last step of the installation will be to put the covers on to make everything look pretty. We've screwed through our side profiles into the niche, and now we want to cover them up with these aluminum extrusions. The back is an undercut, and then we also have a clip-on. So what we want to do is you put them on and then slide them into place until you hear them click into place. And as far as the alignment goes, they should go up to the top of the ventilation cap. So once you have the alignment up there, you can slide them over and try and snap them into place. And you should hear or feel a click when you do it. If it is tight or difficult, you can use a mallet. You can see where they're actually clicking into place. So we'll finish this one off. Which is snapped into place nicely, and we'll put the other one on the hinge side. The hinge side can be a little bit trickier just because we don't have the access to get the hammer in there. But we'll slide it up to the top of the niche. What we can do is use the handle of the hammer. So just be sure to use something that's not hard or is going to scratch the soft aluminum extrusion. So we're snapped into place nicely. And the very last step will be to install the lower ventilation grill. I've removed the laser film from the lower ventilation grill. The lower ventilation grill covers up the condenser coils, which draws air across the system. This is the proper orientation of the grill. If we were to put it upside down, you would be able to see down through the grill from a standing orientation. We don't want that, so make sure it's the correct orientation. On the back are a couple of magnets, and that's what holds the grill in place, and it's as simple as sliding it into place at floor level until it engages. The magnets catch the front as such. And if you have access to or the ability to talk to the customer, remind them that the condenser coils can get clogged up with pet hair or dust, and so every 6 months or so they should check them, pull the grill off and run a vacuum over the condenser coils.